"You're just the placeholder." "Emily," my sister hissed at her own engagement party, her words slicing through the chatter like a knife, not knowing that venom would lead me to the love of my life. "I'm Emily Harper, a 30-year-old event planner from Seattle, Washington, and 6 months ago, my world shattered when my sister, Sophie, stole my fiancé, Nathan, that gilded invitation to their engagement party. It wasn't just a request to celebrate, it was a challenge, daring me to face the betrayal head-on. But what happened next turned the worst moment of my life into the best. Before I dive into how I walked into that party and rewrote my story, drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? If you've ever been stabbed in the back by family or found hope after heartbreak, this one's for you. Hit that like button, subscribe, and stick around, because trust me, this story's twists are sweeter than the champagne at that party. Picture this Seattle, where the Puget Sound sparkles under gray skies, and coffee shops hum with artists and dreamers. I was living my dream life, planning high-end events for Seattle's elite Think rooftop galas with views of the Space Needle, or intimate weddings on Bainbridge Island ferries. My job was chaos, but I loved it. Every detail, from floral arches to string quartets, was my canvas. And at the center of my world was Nathan Brooks, my fiancé of 6 years, a software engineer with a laugh that could melt my stress away. We were the couple everyone envied, planning our future in a cozy Belltown apartment, dreaming of a house in Queen Anne with a view of the water. My family was tight-knit, too. My parents, Catherine and Michael, were my biggest cheerleaders, and my younger sister, Sophie, a 27-year-old painter with a wild streak, was my best friend, or so I thought. But Sophie always had this spark of envy in her eyes. Growing up, she was the free spirit, her canvases bursting with color, while I was the planner, the one who got straight A's and never missed a deadline. Our parents loved us both, but I'd catch Mom saying, "Emily's got Michael's drive," or Dad boasting, "Sophie's our little Picasso." It was never a contest to me, but Sophie saw it differently. She'd joke, "You always get everything, Em." Her smile tight, her words half teasing, half something else. I brushed it off. We were sisters. We shared secrets, laughed over late-night wine. And once, when Sophie's art career tanked, I paid her rent for 3 months. I thought that's what family did, lift each other up. So when Nathan and I got engaged, I assumed Sophie was thrilled. I showed her the ring, a sapphire that caught the light like the sound at sunset. And she hugged me, squealing. "It's perfect. I never imagined she'd want to claim it or him for herself." Then came the invitation. It arrived in a cream envelope. Gold script, gleaming Sophie Harper and Nathan Brooks request your presence at their engagement celebration. My hands shook as I opened it, revealing Sophie's handwritten note, "You're the best sister. Come see my happiness. Happiness." The word burned 9 months ago. I'd found Nathan's iPad buzzing with messages from Sophie. Last night was incredible. When do we tell her my fiancé, the man who'd promised me forever, had been sneaking around with my sister for months? The betrayal wasn't just a crack in my heart, it was a wrecking ball. Now they were flaunting their love, expecting me to smile and clap. The audacity lit a fire in me. I wasn't going to hide. I'd show up, head high, proving I was stronger than their betrayal. But here's the twist. That party wasn't just a stage for their victory, it became mine. I walked in with a man who saw my worth, faced my sister's cruelty, and turned her moment into my triumph. How did I go from a broken heart to a brighter future? Stick with me, because this story's about to get wild. If you've ever had to face someone who hurt you, or wondered if love can bloom after loss, share your thoughts below. Let's get this to everyone who needs a reminder sometimes. The worst betrayals lead to the best beginnings. Back when life felt like a dream, I was on top of the world. Seattle's skyline sparkled outside my Belltown apartment, and every day buzzed with purpose. As an event planner, I spun chaos into magic crafting galas where chandeliers gleamed, weddings where vows echoed over Puget Sound's waves. My work was my art, and I poured my soul into every detail, but nothing lit me up like Nathan Brooks, my fiancé, my home. 6 years together, and his crooked smile still made my heart skip. We'd sit on our balcony, sipping coffee, planning a future as vivid as the city lights, a house in Queen Anne, maybe a dog, kids someday. "You're my anchor, he'd say, his hand warm in mine. I believed him, completely. Our love story started in a Fremont coffee shop, rain pattering the windows. I was juggling client calls. He was sketching app designs on a napkin. He offered me his umbrella when I left classic Nathan, always the hero. From that moment, we were inseparable. Dates at Pike Place, stealing kisses by the fish market, late nights coding side by side, me planning events, him building apps. When he proposed, it was perfect. Top of the Space Needle, the city a constellation below us. He knelt, sapphire ring catching the light, and said, "Emily, you make every moment magic. I want forever with you." My yes echoed through tears, and we danced under the stars, dreaming of our wedding. That memory, it was my safe place. A glow I carried everywhere. My family was the other half of my heart. Mom, Catherine, with her warm hugs and endless optimism, always said I had Dad's drive. Dad, Michael, a retired architect, bragged about my work to anyone who'd listen. Then there was Sophie, my little sister, 27, a painter with a laugh like wildfire. She was chaos to my order. Her studio a riot of color while my planner was color-coded. Growing up, we were thick as thieves, building pillow forts, sneaking cookies, whispering secrets under the covers. Sure, Sophie had her moments. She'd roll her eyes when Mom praised my latest event. Mutter, "Perfect Emily strikes again." I laughed it off. Sibling stuff, right. I adored her. When her art gigs dried up, I covered her rent, bought her supplies. "You're the best," she'd say, hugging me tight. I thought we were unbreakable, but there was always something. A shadow in Sophie's smile when I shared good news. Like when Nathan and I got engaged, and I showed her the ring. "It's gorgeous," she gushed, but her eyes flickered, like she was measuring it against something I couldn't see. I ignored it. We were different, that's all. She was the dreamer. I was the doer, Mom used to say. Emily's got Michael's brain, but Sophie's got my soul. Dad would nod, proud of us both. I never saw it as a contest, but Sophie, she kept score. Once, at a family dinner, she joked, "Em's got the perfect life, perfect guy." What's left for me, everyone laughed. I did too. But her words lingered, sharp under the humor. Nathan and I were building something real. We'd spend Sundays hiking in the Olympics, dreaming aloud. He'd talk about his startup. I'd sketch seating charts for my next event. We fit. Even our fights over dumb stuff like dishes or my workaholic streak ended in laughter. I trusted him with every piece of me, and Sophie. She was part of our world. She'd crash our movie nights, tease Nathan about his coding obsession. "You're lucky Em puts up with you," she'd say. Winking, he'd grin. pull me close. I thought it was all love, family, the kind you lean into without question. That's what made the fall so brutal. I was blind to the cracks. Sophie's quiet envy, Nathan's wandering heart. I thought we were solid, a team against the world. But life has a way of shattering what you hold dearest. That sapphire ring, the one I twirled on my finger every day, it became a weight I couldn't bear. If you've ever thought you had it all, only to watch it slip away, you know that ache. Share your story below. Have you ever trusted someone completely, only to be blindsided? Hit like, subscribe, and keep watching. Because my story's about to twist in ways I never saw coming. The day my world cracked open started like any other. I was back from a work trip, buzzing with ideas for a client's gala, ready to surprise Nathan at his Capitol Hill apartment. I let myself in, expecting his grin. Maybe a lazy Sunday together. Instead, his iPad sat on the counter, buzzing like a hornet's nest. A message flashed. Last night was incredible. Sophie. When do we tell her my stomach dropped? Sophie. My sister. I swiped, hands trembling, and there it was, months of texts. Flirty, intimate, a knife in my chest with every word. Miss you already. You're so different from M. My knees buckled. I sank to the floor, the iPad cold against my palms, as their betrayal painted my perfect life in shades of lies. Nathan walked in, coffee in hand, and froze. You're back early. His voice shook, guilt written in every line of his face. Early enough to see this, I said, holding up the iPad, my voice steady despite the earthquake inside. How long? Nathan, how long? He collapsed onto the couch, head in hands. 4 months. It just happened. We didn't plan it. Didn't plan it. My fiancé, the man who'd promised me forever, and my sister, my confidant, had been sneaking around, laughing behind my back. You and Sophie, I spat. My family. He stammered. I needed something freer. Sophie's unpredictable. Each word was a fresh cut. I twisted the sapphire ring off my finger, slammed it on the table. You don't get to explain this away. I walked out, the doors slam, echoing like a gunshot. The fallout was a storm. I called my best friend Lily, sobbing so hard I could barely speak. She was at my place in 20 minutes, armed with wine and rage. They're garbage. You're worth 1,000 of them. But her words couldn't fill the hole. My parents were next. Mom, Catherine, tried to play peacemaker over a tense phone call. Honey, love's messy sometimes. They didn't mean to hurt you. Love. I wanted to scream. Dad, Michael, was livid, his voice low and sharp. No daughter of mine betrays her sister like this. But when Sophie called, her voice small, saying, we're in love. You'll understand someday. I hung up. Understand she'd taken my future and called it fate. The family dinner a week later was a battlefield. Sophie and Nathan showed up, holding hands like they'd won some prize. Sophie announced they were officially together, her chin high. We can't help who we love, she said, reaching for Nathan's hand. Dad's fork hit the plate with a clink. You call this love breaking your sister's heart? Mom touched his arm, whispering, Michael, please. I sat frozen, my food untouched, as Sophie's eyes met mine. I hope you can be happy for us. Happy. The word was a slap. I stood, voice calm but steel. You don't get to ask that. I left, the silence behind me heavier than words. Seattle, once my playground, felt like a cage. Every corner, Pike Place, our favorite ramen spot, held ghosts of Nathan's laugh, Sophie's hugs. I stopped going to family dinners, ignored Mom's pleading voicemails. The ring, that sapphire I'd loved, sat in a drawer, a cruel reminder of promises shattered. Some nights, I'd stare at it, wondering if I'd sell it, throw it into the sound, or just let it haunt me. Work was my only escape, but even there, I was a shadow, checking my phone for apologies that never came. Lily tried to pull me out, dragging me to bars, but I was numb. "You're stronger than this," she'd say. Strong, I felt like ash, crumbling with every breath. The worst part, I trusted them completely. Nathan, with his dreams and devotion. Sophie, with her art and secrets. They were my safe place, my people, and they'd built a love on my ruins. If you've ever been betrayed by the ones you die for, you know this pain. It's a wound that bleeds trust. Drop your story in the comments. Have you faced a betrayal that broke you? Hit like, subscribe, and stay with me, because this isn't the end. It's where I started to fight back. The weeks after Nathan and Sophie's betrayal felt like wading through fog. Seattle's rain mirrored my mood, each drop a reminder of the life I'd lost. I couldn't stay in Belltown, where every corner screamed memories of Nathan's laugh, Sophie's hugs. So I moved to a small apartment in Fremont, a fresh start with bare walls and a view of the canal. The boxes stayed unpacked for weeks. I was too busy surviving. My heart was a bruise, tender and raw. But I knew one thing I had to rebuild, not for them, for me. Work was my lifeline. Planning events, galas, fundraisers, birthdays gave me structure. I'd lose myself in seating charts, floral orders, anything to drown the ache. But it wasn't enough. The nights were brutal, alone with thoughts that clawed at me. Why wasn't I enough? What did Sophie have that I didn't? That's when Lily, my best friend, became my anchor. She showed up with pizza and a plan. "We're not letting them win." She said, her eyes fierce. "You're gonna come back stronger." She pushed me to see Dr. Rachel Cohen, a therapist she swore by. I was skeptical, but I went, and it changed everything. Dr. Cohen's office was warm, all soft blues and plants. She didn't sugarcoat things. Betrayal like this, it's trauma. "Emily, you're allowed to feel it all: anger, grief, fear. But you get to choose what comes next." She taught me about healthy boundaries, about giving myself permission to heal without guilt. "You don't owe them your forgiveness," she said. "You owe yourself peace." Those words stuck. I started small journaling my rage, my hurt, letting it spill onto pages instead of my heart. I cried, a lot. But each tear felt like letting go, like reclaiming a piece of me. Lily kept me moving. She dragged me to Green Lake for walks, where we'd talk about everything but Nathan and Sophie. She got me into a pottery class in Fremont, something I'd never tried. My first mug was lopsided, a mess of clay and hope. But shaping it with my hands felt grounding, like I could mold my life again too. "See," Lily grinned, "you're building something new." That's when I started my blog, anonymously, pouring my journey into words. I called it From Ashes. Posts about heartbreak, trust, starting over. I didn't expect anyone to read it. But comments poured in. Your words saved me. I'm healing, too. Strangers became my community, their stories stitching my wounds. I tried dating, mostly to appease Lily, a tech bro who talked over me, a barista who seemed sweet but ghosted. Trust was a muscle I'd forgotten how to use. One guy, nice enough, got annoyed when I flinched at a waitress's friendly chat. "You're paranoid," he said. I ended it. I wasn't ready. And that was okay. Dr. Cohen said healing isn't linear. Some days, I'd dance to music in my kitchen, feeling light. Others, I'd see a couple holding hands and feel the old ache. But I kept going. I bought plants for my apartment ferns, succulents, life I could nurture. I ran along the canal at dawn, my breath syncing with the city's pulse. Each step was a promise I am enough. My family was a harder knot to untangle. Mom's calls came daily, her voice soft, pleading. We miss you. Sophie's sorry. Can't we fix this? I'd clench my jaw, say I needed time. Dad was quieter, his anger at Sophie matching mine. But even he said, "She's still my daughter." I stopped going to family dinners. The thought of seeing Sophie's smug smile, Nathan's guilty eyes, it was too much. But I wasn't hiding. I was protecting myself. My blog grew, thousands following now, and it gave me purpose. I wasn't just surviving. I was helping others survive, too. Then I started to feel it a shift. The pain wasn't gone, but it was quieter, like a radio turned low. I'd catch myself laughing at Lily's bad puns, savoring coffee without checking my phone for Nathan's texts. I was finding me again. Not the Emily who loved Nathan, but the Emily who loved herself. If you've ever had to rebuild after someone broke you, you know this fight. It's messy, it's slow, but it's yours. Share your healing story below. How did you find your strength? Hit like, subscribe, and stay with me, because this journey's about to take a turn you won't believe. The cream envelope sat on my Fremont kitchen counter like a ticking bomb. Gold script taunted me. Sophie Harper and Nathan Brooks request your presence at their engagement celebration. My hands shook as I pulled out Sophie's note, her familiar scrawl cutting deeper than I expected. You're the best sister. Come see my happiness. Happiness. The word was a punch, twisting the knife of their betrayal. 9 months since I'd found those texts. Since Nathan and Sophie shattered my world. Now they wanted me to clap for their love. Rage surged, hot and sharp. But beneath it, something else stirred. A spark. I wasn't going to let them think I was still broken. I'd show up. I'd show them all. Lily was at my apartment in minutes after I called, her eyes wide as she read the invitation. This is insane. You're not seriously going, are you? She paced, wine glass in hand. It's a power move, plain and simple. But the more we talked, the clearer it became. Hiding would mean they won. I need to do this. Lil, I said, voice steady. Not for them, for me. To prove I'm not the wreck they left behind. Lily stopped, studied me, then grinned. Okay, but if you're walking into this circus, you're doing it as a queen. We're talking full glow-up. They won't know what hit 'em. Operation Glow Up was born. Lily turned it into a mission, complete with a calendar and checklists. First, the dress. We scoured boutiques in Pioneer Square, hunting for something bold, unforgettable, at a tiny shop. I found it a deep emerald gown, sleeveless, with a slit that whispered confidence. This is you, Lily said as I twirled in the mirror. It screams, I'm thriving! Next, we booked spa days, facials, massages, the works. I started morning runs along the Fremont Canal, my muscles waking up, my body feeling stronger every day. A stylist in Belltown gave me a sleek bob, framing my face with soft waves. Heartbreak's hell on hair. She teased, snipping away. But you're ready to slay, my blog. From ashes. Was booming, readers cheering my progress. Their comments, you're so brave. Emily fueled me. But the family pressure was relentless. Mom called daily, her voice trembling. This rift is killing me. Please come. Show them how strong you are. Even Dad, my rock, softened. Over coffee, he said. I hate this. But Sophie's my kid too. I'm walking her down that aisle someday. You don't have to go. But I'll back you either way. His words hit hard. I wasn't just facing Sophie and Nathan. I was facing the family I still loved, flaws and all. Then 3 weeks before the party, I met Lucas Bennett. It was at a charity auction I'd planned, a glitzy night at the Chihuly Garden. I was chatting with a client when I bumped into him, spilling wine on his crisp blazer. Oh, I'm so sorry, I gasped, dabbing at the stain. He laughed, eyes crinkling. No harm done. This jacket needed a story. Lucas was a documentary filmmaker, 32, with a quiet confidence and a smile that felt like home. We talked all night about Seattle's hidden gems, my love for event planning, his films on unsung heroes. When he asked for my number, I hesitated, then thought, why not? Coffee turned into dinner. Then a day at the Burke-Gilman Trail. Biking and laughing like I hadn't in months. Over tacos one night. I told Lucas about the party. My sister's marrying my ex. I'm going to show I've moved on. He didn't flinch. That takes guts, he said, leaning in. Want a wingman? I'm pretty good at making exes jealous. His grin was playful, but his eyes were serious. Why would you dive into my drama? I asked. He took my hand. Because I like you, Emily. And I've been through my own mess, a cheating ex, years ago. I get it. We planned our entrance like a heist matching outfits, a navy tie for him, my emerald dress. We'll look like a power couple, he said. For the first time, I wasn't dreading the party. I was ready. Have you ever had to face your past to prove you're stronger? Drop your story below. Hit like, subscribe, and keep watching. Because this showdown's about to get epic. The Chihuly Garden Ballroom glowed under a canopy of glass sculptures, their colors dancing across the Puget Sound beyond the windows. Sophie and Nathan's engagement party was a spectacle, all champagne flutes and laughter. But my heart pounded as Lucas and I stepped inside. My emerald gown caught the light, and Lucas, sharp in his navy suit, squeezed my hand. You've got this. Emily, he whispered. Heads turned, whispers followed. I felt Sophie's eyes before I saw her, her cream dress pristine, her smile a mask. Nathan stood beside her, his jaw tight. This was it. My moment to face the past and reclaim my future. We moved through the crowd, Lucas's hand steady on my back. Mom rushed over, her eyes misty. Emily, you came. She hugged me, then sized up Lucas. And who's this Lucas Bennett? Ma'am, he said, charm on full display. Emily's +1, Mom beamed. But I caught Sophie watching, her lips a thin line. She glided toward us, Nathan trailing. You made it, she said, air kissing my cheek, her voice syrupy. And with a friend, how sweet. Lucas extended his hand. Lucas Bennett, Emily's boyfriend. Congrats on the engagement, boyfriend. The word landed like a spark, and Sophie's smile flickered. Nathan shifted, mumbling. Good to see you. I nodded. Cool as ice. Wouldn't miss it. The night was a tightrope. Lucas was my shield. Charming Dad's old friends. Deflecting nosy ants with ease. How'd you two meet? One asked. Lucas grinned. She spilled wine on me. Best accident of my life. Laughter rippled, but Nathan's gaze burned from across the room. Every time Lucas made me laugh, Nathan's eyes narrowed. Sophie noticed, her grip on his arm tightening. I should have felt triumph, but it was hollow. Their betrayal still stung, a ghost in every glance. Then came the speeches. Nathan's best man, Greg, gave a bland toast, avoiding the messy truth of how they got here. Sophie stood next, taking the mic, her champagne glass raised. "I want to thank everyone for celebrating our love," she said, voice bright but sharp. Her eyes locked on me. "Sometimes, love takes a winding path. Nathan thought he wanted safe, predictable, but I'm the one he chose forever." The room hushed, guests shifting uncomfortably. Safe. She meant me. The insult hung, a public jab meant to shrink me. Mom gasped softly. Dad's face darkened. My chest tightened. But Lucas's hand found mine under the table, grounding me. Before I could speak, Lucas stood, glass in hand, his voice calm but commanding. "May I?" He looked at Nathan, who nodded, uneasy. "I'm Lucas Bennett, Emily Harper's date," he began, warm and steady. I've known Emily only a short time, but she's shown me what real strength looks like. She came here, despite everything, to support her sister. That's grace. The room was silent, all eyes on him. Sophie's right, sometimes we miss what's truly valuable. But I'm not here as Emily's fallback. I'm her upgrade. A whistle broke the tension, murmurs rising. "I just won an award for my documentary at Sundance," he added, casual but pointed. "But the real honor standing beside this woman." He looked at me, eyes soft, to new beginnings and recognizing worth when you see it. The crowd erupted, clapping, some cheering. Sophie's face flushed crimson. Nathan looked stunned, his confidence crumbling. Later, I slipped into the restroom to breathe. The door burst open, and Sophie stormed in, her gown bunched in her fists. "What was that?" she snapped. "Your boyfriend humiliating us at our party," I faced her. Calm. "You called me a placeholder, Sophie, in front of everyone." "What did you expect?" Her eyes blazed. "You always get to be perfect, Emily, Dad's favorite. Mom's pride. I've spent my life in your shadow." Her voice broke, raw with years of resentment. Nathan picked me, for once. I won. I stared, seeing her pain for the first time. "I never wanted to compete. Soph, you're my sister." She faltered, then whispered, "He's texting his coworker. I saw it tonight. I'm not even sure he loves me." The confession hung fragile. "I'm sorry," I said, meaning it. "But this isn't about winning." She wiped her eyes, mascara smudging, and left without a word. That moment shifted something. I wasn't here to fight. I was here to let go. Have you ever faced someone who hurt you and found strength you didn't know you had? Share below, hit like, subscribe, and stay with me, this story's far from over. The air felt lighter as Lucas and I left the Chihuly Garden ballroom, the party's hum fading behind us. Sophie's words in the restroom, her raw confession about Nathan's texts, lingered, but they didn't crush me. For the first time in months, I felt free. Not from the pain that was still there, a dull ache, but from the need to prove anything to them. I'd faced my sister, my ex, and walked away taller. Lucas glanced at me as we stepped into the cool Seattle night, his smile soft. "You were incredible back there, Emily." I laughed, a real laugh, something I hadn't heard from myself in too long. "We were incredible. Thank you for everything." His hand found mine, warm and steady, and I knew this wasn't just a performance anymore. Something real was growing. The weeks that followed were like waking up from a long sleep. Lucas and I started seeing each other, not as part of a plan, but because we wanted to. Our first official date was at a dive bar in Fremont, trading stories over greasy burgers and local brews. He told me about his Sundance win, how he'd spent years chasing stories of resilience. "You're one of those stories," he said, eyes serious. I blushed, but his words stuck. We explored Seattle together, kayaking on Lake Union, catching indie films at SIFF, laughing until our sides hurt at comedy nights. With him, I wasn't the betrayed sister or the broken fiancé. I was just me, and I liked her. My blog, From Ashes, exploded. Readers flooded the comments, sharing their own heartbreaks, their own comebacks. "You're why I left my toxic ex. Your words make me feel seen." I started getting emails from publishers, one offering a book deal to turn my posts into a guide for healing. I said yes, terrified but thrilled. Writing became my voice, a way to help others while helping myself. Dr. Cohen, my therapist, called it reclaiming my narrative. "You're not defined by what they did," she said. "You're defined by what you do next." So I did more. I poured my heart into work, landing bigger clients, tech moguls, nonprofits. My events were the talk of Seattle. Each one a testament to the woman I was becoming. Then came Sophie. A month after the party, she texted, "Can we talk?" I met her at a quiet cafe in Capitol Hill, bracing for drama. She looked tired, her usual spark dimmed. "Nathan's distant," she admitted, twisting her engagement ring. I saw more texts. "I don't know if we'll make it." Her voice cracked. And I saw my sister, not the rival, but the girl I'd once built pillow forts with. "I'm sorry, Soph," I said. And I meant it. "Have you thought about therapy? Dr. Cohen's amazing." She nodded, hesitant. "Maybe I messed up. With you." It wasn't an apology, not fully, but it was a start. I didn't forgive her, not yet, but I didn't hate her either. We were finding a new way to be sisters, one honest word at a time. I kept my distance from family drama, setting boundaries like Dr. Cohen taught me. Mom's calls still came, but I answered less, focusing on my own peace. Dad and I started weekly brunches, talking about everything but Sophie. "You're my hero," he said once, eyes misty. My blog community grew, and I organized a small event, From Ashes meetup at a waterfront park. Lucas spoke, sharing his own story of betrayal, and we raised funds for a women's shelter. Seeing readers hug, cry, connect, it was proof. I was building something bigger than my pain. Lucas and I grew closer. Our connection rooted in truth, not revenge. He'd leave sticky notes on my fridge. "You're killing it." I'd tease him about his terrible taste in sci-fi. It was easy, real. Nothing like the pressure I'd felt with Nathan. One night, as we watched the sunset over the Sound, he said, "I'm not going anywhere. Emily, you're my home." My heart swelled. This was what love should feel like, safe, but free. If you've ever found hope after hurt, you know this glow. Share your comeback in the comments. Hit like, subscribe, and stick with me because my story's about to shine even brighter. The Seattle sunset painted the sky in hues of amber and rose as Lucas and I stood in Fremont Park, the canal shimmering below. It was a quiet evening, just us and the soft lapping of water, when he turned to me, his eyes catching the fading light. "Emily Harper," he said, voice low but steady. "You've changed my world." Before I could respond, he dropped to one knee. A simple ring glinting in his hand, a sapphire, unique. Nothing like Nathan's, surrounded by tiny diamonds like stars. "I know it's fast," he said, "but I've never been surer. You make every moment better. marry me, and we can take as long as you want to build our forever. My heart raced, not with fear, but with joy. Yes, I said, tears spilling. But let's make it a long engagement. I want to savor this. He slipped the ring on my finger, kissed me soft and slow, and as the park's fairy lights twinkled on, my family, Mom, Dad, even a few cousins cheered from a distance, in on the surprise. It was perfect, not for show, but for us. That moment, surrounded by love and light, was a far cry from the pain of Sophie and Nathan's betrayal. Their engagement party, once a wound, had become my turning point. I'd walked in expecting to prove I was okay, but I left knowing I was more than okay. I was whole. Sophie and Nathan's story. It wasn't mine anymore. Mom texted updates, their fights, Nathan's late nights, Sophie's doubts. I wished them well, but from a distance. My life was too full for their shadows. My blog, From Ashes, was now a book deal, a beacon for others' healing. Lucas and I were planning our future, not rushed, but intentional coffee dates, kayak trips, dreams whispered over wine. I'd learned to love myself first, and that made loving him feel like freedom. Here's what I want you to take away. First, forgive yourself. You're not to blame for others' choices. Let go of the guilt and choose you. Second, set boundaries. Loving your family doesn't mean sacrificing your peace. Say no when it protects your heart. Third, trust the journey. The worst moments, betrayal. Loss can lead to the best. Open your heart to new beginnings, even when it's scary. I once thought Sophie's invitation was a taunt, a final blow. Instead, it was my doorway to a life brighter than I'd dreamed. I gave Sophie a pottery mug from my class, painted with her favorite colors, a small gesture, not forgiveness, but a step toward peace. We're rebuilding, slowly, as sisters should. Life's funny like that. The people who break you can lead you to the ones who heal you. Lucas saw me, not as a placeholder, but as a prize. If you've ever turned pain into power, share your story below. How did you rise? Hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. The end of one chapter is just the start of something beautiful. Thank you for joining me on this ride. Here's to your own new beginnings.